Okay, I have to start by saying that this is the most ferocious amplifier I've come across so far. It's the only amp that my wife has ever actually asked me to stop playing. So over the last year, I've often thought about that amp, but I couldn't find the right version of it for me. That Twilighter Stereo, that is 2 amps in one. It was way too loud, and you'd need 2 attenuators to turn it down. So in the meantime, I've been through other amps, trying other things, the Bartel Roseland, the Lazy J10. And I've often looked online, is there a version of this that will work well for me? But until this week, nothing had really worked out. So really, 3 things happened in the last week that came together to, I think, sort of bring me to where I want to be right now. First of all, I was asked to give a speech at an evening with Paul Reed-Smith over at Peach Guitars. They asked me about a month ago, and it was a good opportunity for my charity fundraiser. Even though I hate public speaking, it made me really nervous. It went well-ish, I think. And on the evening, Paul Reed-Smith himself donated me an acoustic guitar, a pink PRS acoustic guitar that I actually really love, and I'll show you in another video. But what happened from that was, having spent most of the day there on Monday, I saw how many Paul Reed-Smith guitars were in stock, and that it could make some good content for the channel. On top of that, even though it was before release, I got to see the new Robin Ford signature guitar, and I really wanted to try that out. So I asked John, the owner of Peach, could I come back later in the week, maybe on Friday, and spend a day filming stuff at Peach, which I really enjoy. So we set that up. As it stood at that moment, I was thinking, I haven't sold anything just now, and I'm trying to keep a 1-in, 1-out thing going right now. So can I do anything in the next 3 or 4 days that could help me if I wanted to buy something on Friday? I wasn't really sure. Then 2 days later, the second thing that happened was I got a message out of the blue from someone who had seen on the channel that I could think about selling the Bartel Roseland. They weren't the first person to bring it up, and at one point I even had a swap sorted out with someone for their vintage deluxe reverb and their Lazy JJ40, but their deluxe reverb had an issue and the timing wasn't working out in terms of getting that fixed, and I just wasn't quite set on getting more amps, so that one didn't work. But this guy was going to buy the amp off me, and he paid reasonably near what I paid for it, which I think was a great deal for both of us, seeing as the price of the amps has gone up a lot since the pound fell dramatically. So suddenly I had this offer and I accepted it. The Bartel Roseland was going to go. So now I was going into Peach knowing that I had some money in my pocket and a space in my music room, the Bartel being a big amp as well. Literally a space had opened up. So I think we take it from there. I walked in and I'd asked John if he could set this amp up for me before I got there so that it was ready to go. And I just thought, oh no, I'll bring a guitar of my own. So I brought my baritone and I plugged it in. And this happened. Straight away I was wowed because I was in a big room with this big amp and it was turned up a fair amount. Even though there wasn't a attenuator there to bring it down a little bit, it was at a really nice volume, filled the whole room. And a baritone tends to sound massive anyway. But one thing that I liked was turn the amp on, just turn the volume up, bass and treble, didn't really think about them too much. I wanted to see what would happen. Had the tremolo going and I just straight away thought, yeah, I know that I wouldn't have to tweak with this thing much. Just get the amount of gain I want, use the guitar volume. That's always what I'm looking for now. As few pedals as possible, as much amp and guitar as possible. So then I've got to try this with a guitar. And at the moment I'm really in a humbucker mood, loving Les Pauls. So they had there sitting there this very nice heavy aged Murphy Lab R9. So I gave that a go. So this is the Twilighter Mono. So it's 1 amp, it's 22 watts, and it has this famous Magnatone sort of tremolo system, which we'll go into in a more in-depth video about the amp itself. It's just got a volume and a treble and a bass, and with a good attenuator attached, it's just got the most swampy but not too mushy sound. It's got a really great feeling under the fingers. It's not too squishy. You always feel the attack is there, and the notes sort of, they don't fall away from you, if that makes sense. And it doesn't just, it's not smooth. I've always been trying to avoid smooth. That's the tone that I don't personally think suits me or what I want to play. Some of my other amps, they can really get into that smooth territory when overdriven. So I like this more edgy thing. And as I develop as a player and realize that I'm gonna be a pretty simple player. I don't need lots of bells and whistles, I don't think. I think I would just like to be the sort of person that rocks up with the amp, couple of guitars, 3 or 4 pedals for like the real functionality of them. You know, a great fuzz, a great boost or clean, great clean boost or sort of transparent overdrive. 1 overdrive like the Blues Power or the Jan Ray or the Shanks, you know, something to give me a different tone for certain parts of the music. And then, well, I clearly wouldn't need tremolo with this amp or reverb, but I'm sure there are some things like delay that I could use. So I want to create the simplest rig. That's the last 6 to 12 months of my sort of musical thing has been trying to simplify from massive board to smaller, from 2 amps to 1, from an amp that can do everything to an amp that just does the thing I want it to do. So before I even started looking at other guitars there, I thought, I just can't leave this here. You know, I've sold the Bartel, and for half the price of what I sold it for, pretty much, I can get this amp. But before I rushed into it too quickly, I thought I better just spend a bit more time and actually just sort of feel my way up and down with this guitar. You know, am I getting what I want out of the amp? Because obviously, you know, you can rush to a decision, and yeah, I have a bit more here where I'm just sort of feeling my way around, enjoying the amp. And for this couple of minutes of playing, I'm really just thinking to myself, you know, I don't want to rush this, but I think I'm making the right decision. You know what it's like in the shop. You know, you don't want to rush yourself at the same time you're excited. So I tried to feel my way around. Let's see, you know, how that sounded. So yeah, after that, I was definitely making the right decision. I thought the amp is coming home with me. I didn't really have to think about it for that long. So now I just want to get a guitar out and give it a quick go here. Seeing as I didn't play a single coil at the shop, I'm going to use my 63 Strat here. Just give it a minute and tell you what I think about it. So just like with the other two guitars that I played with it, it's got a real warmth to it. I want to balance out the amount of attenuation to the amount of drive that I want out of the amp, just so it doesn't sound at all sort of mushy or you get this over compression thing. There's like a balance point for me. And I just need to spend a bit longer, but I could probably make a video out of that, which I think will be interesting to talk about how to set this up for single coils, humbuckers, baritone with pedals, and using the attenuator, so that we can sort of see it works. You know, it'll be like with a lot of amps, there's a point at which you over attenuate it and you turn up the volume too much on your amp and you get a bit too much mush. So yeah, we'll work on that. That'll be great. But for a first recording, I was happy with that and it was lovely to play. For me, I love that point where I can get those double stops to be really sort of warm. I think I just had the volume on the amp a bit too high and it just started to mush when I hit too hard. But that's, you know, there's a learning curve literally that I've had 5 minutes at home with the amp. So yeah, really love this thing. And the next two parts, as I said, I'm going to be going through several Paul Reed Smith guitars at the shop, see what I think about them. I've never really played any of those. The McCarty 594, the Custom 24, there's more, DGT, Special Semi-Hollow, and there's actually a really special Paul Reed Smith there that belongs to John, the owner of Peach, which I'll show you, which is something you wouldn't be able to get hold of. But yeah, for now, I've replaced the Bartol Roseland with something I've been wanting for a long time, and I think it's going to become one of my two main amps. We'll get to what my whole new rig is going to look like in a few videos time. But I hope you've enjoyed this, and please give the video a thumbs up if you have, and subscribe if you want to see the next two parts of this series, where we're back at Peach looking at guitars and having a great time, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.